blood steamed against the chilled floor of the Zarnak arena. 8 alien bodies lay broken in a crude circle, their limbs twisted in unnatural ways, their eyes forever frozen in terror. In the center stood the girl, barefoot, blood-soaked, unarmored. She was small. Too small. The audience had laughed when they released her, this Earth creature, this Deathworlder. 19 rotations old, with no visible implants, no neural augments. The guards had stripped her of everything, even her name on the arena roster. She was simply listed as, Subject 27, human, female. Now, no one laughed. The 9th combatant, an armored insectoid from Dranthus Prime, dropped its scythe and took 2 clumsy steps back. Its breathing was ragged, its compound eyes flicking between the bodies and the girl. The metal-capped claws twitched. The girl didn't move. She stood in a relaxed stance, breathing steady, hands loose at her sides. There was a slash across her left shoulder, still bleeding, but she ignored it. Her eyes were fixed on the insectoid, but not with rage. With curiosity. High above the killing floor, behind layers of transparent durasteel, Overseer Kraltak Threx leaned forward in his throne. "She's watching him think," he murmured. Next to him, a technician whispered, "We should call in the suppression drones. This isn't protocol." She's not stopping." Kraltak didn't blink. "She is calculating. Let her." On the floor, the insectoid warrior finally lunged, faster than anything with that mass should move. Its claws sliced the air, aiming for the girl's throat. She ducked, pivoted, and moved behind it in one fluid motion. Then she stepped forward and drove her palm into the base of its thorax. There was a wet snap. The creature collapsed mid-stride, twitching once before falling silent. The audience was silent. The arena's blood-soaked sand crackled as it cooled. Somewhere, a commentator forgot to speak. Even the holographic kill counters hesitated before updating the tally. 9. The girl turned her head slowly, gaze rising to the spectator windows. Her eyes met the cameras. And then, she smiled. It wasn't wide. Just a twitch of the lips. A human expression, unreadable to most in the galaxy. But it radiated danger. In the control deck, a junior officer paled. "Sir, the guards aren't releasing the next wave." "They're afraid," Kraltak replied, amused. "Good. Let's see what she does without a prompt." 6 hours earlier. Sarah Vex had said nothing during her intake. She'd been brought in chains, loaded from the medical bay where the scientists had run their tests. Bone density off the charts. Muscle-to-mass ratio beyond acceptable margins. Neural reflexes well beyond the upper percentile. Lethal, one had whispered. Kraltak had grinned. Perfect. She'd been fed, clothed in arena garb, and deposited in a holding cell. All standard. All expected. Except she didn't pace. Didn't beg. Didn't scream like the others. She had sat cross-legged on the floor, watching the light move across the wall. She counted the guards. Noted their shift changes. Memorized their walk patterns. Plotted. When they came for her, she followed without protest. Back in the arena. The cleanup drones whirred as they swept up shattered bone and alien ichor. The gates remained shut. No one had pressed the release. The overseer leaned back, fingers steepled. "She's not just surviving. She's testing us." A senior handler turned, disturbed. "We didn't arm her, sir. We wanted her to die quickly." "She wasn't armed," Kraltak replied. "And yet." He flicked open a control feed. Zoomed in on the girl. She was crouched beside the insectoid. Not looting. Not posing. Studying. Sarah examined the creature's armor, tapping her knuckle along the plating. Weak points. Structural layout. Then she shifted her hand, carefully snapping off one of the side blades with a quick twist. It made a makeshift weapon. She tested its weight, spun it once, and nodded to herself. Then she sat down again. As if waiting. Inside her mind. The first kill had been easy. Too easy. A hulking biped from Dresger came at her with a plasma axe. He telegraphed every move. She let him swing high, stepped inside, and crushed his windpipe with the heel of her palm. She didn't celebrate. Didn't linger. The next two had worked as a pair, spiraling combat styles, echo tactics designed to overwhelm. But Sarah had spent 4 years hunting in the stormlands of Patagonia. She knew terrain. She knew timing. One she tripped. The other she impaled on the first's own bone spike. The rest had panicked. And panic made mistakes easy to exploit. But none of this had been accidental. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to learn. This arena, this pit of beasts and cameras, was a system. Systems had rules. Systems could be broken. Her silence, her restraint, her refusal to speak, all part of the test. Not of her. Of them. Overseer's office. She should be exhausted, Kraltak muttered. Her adrenaline levels alone. She's conserving, murmured the med officer. It's not just her biology, Overseer. It's intent. Every move is designed to minimize energy loss. She doesn't rage. She adapts. Kraltak's eyes narrowed. And if she adapts to us? The room fell silent. Back in the pit. Sarah rose. Not abruptly, smoothly. Almost lazily. She turned, approached the edge of the gate. She stared directly into the wall-mounted lens. Spoke for the first time since arrival. Send smarter ones. Her voice wasn't loud. But in the hushed colosseum, the words echoed like cannon fire. The name spread faster than plasma fire. Red Ghost. The Girl of Earth. Daughter of Wrath. No one knew what to call her officially, her file was still labeled Subject 27. But across 1,000 systems, arena feeds replayed the footage, a barefoot human teenager dispatching 9 gladiators with no weapons, no armor, and no hesitation. On Vreeken 9, betting syndicates scrambled to update odds. Her kill count reset, but the viewership didn't. It doubled. And deep beneath the arena floor, in her concrete cell, Sarah Vex tied a strip of insectoid carapace around her wrist. Not for style. For grip. Why is she still alive? Overseer Kraltak snapped, pacing the command platform. The arena's war table glowed red with alerts, guard refusals, unauthorized footage leaks, betting inconsistencies. She should have cracked by now. She doesn't even talk, grumbled his lieutenant. She did speak, Kraltak hissed. And when she did, half the guards filed reassignment requests. The technician monitoring the feeds glanced over. Sir, she's not sleeping. She meditates. No REM activity. No muscle twitch. Just stillness. She's planning, the overseer muttered. She's turning the arena into a map. Day 4. New match. The arena roared as the gates opened. Sarah stepped into the sand again, blood from the last battle still drying on her shoulder. She wore the same arena cloth, now torn at the thigh. A jagged blade fashioned from Dranthian scythe bone rested in her hand. This time, they gave her an opponent with history. A champion. Vorak of the Genthuri, 8-time winner, armored to the teeth, wielding a plasma flail and a reinforced ego. He towered over her. I will break you in under 10 beats, he growled, voice modulated through his breathing mask. You are flesh. I am purpose. Sarah didn't answer. The crowd leaned forward. When the klaxon sounded, Vorak charged. Sarah didn't move. Not at first. She waited until his right boot hit the first bloodstain, the one from her first match. A small depression in the sand. He slipped. Half a second. That's all she needed. She slid under his swing, jammed the bone blade into the hydraulic lock of his left knee, and twisted. The flail fell. He bellowed. She took his mask next, slammed his face into the ground, twisted the tubing from his respirator, and drove it into his own throat. The kill was quick. Clinical. The silence after was longer than the match. "She knows the arena," murmured the handler. "Every crack, every sound bounce, every blind spot." Kraltak clenched a clawed fist. "She's not playing the game. She's rewriting it." Flashback, Earth, 5 years ago. The forest burned behind her. Sarah, 14, dragged a steel-jawed bear trap out of a fallen tree shadow. Her arm was torn, smoke stung her eyes, and the mutated beast she'd wounded was still thrashing somewhere behind the underbrush. She didn't cry. Didn't panic. She'd lived through 8 soul cycles in the Patagonia exclusion zone. That meant 3 winters, 2 floods, and at least a dozen predator migrations. You learn to move. You learn to think ahead. That's what she was doing now, on another planet, under alien lights, in a cage made of spectacle. Survive first. Then plan. Then win. Day 7. They gave her monsters. Not champions. Not warriors. Beasts. Genetically modified, brain-spiked, rage-flooded aberrations. Arena horrors meant to shred everything in their path before dying themselves. But they didn't count on Sarah's patience. She didn't attack first. She provoked. She used sand to blind the first. Made the second impale itself on the remains of the first. The third, a triple-headed hound, died when she lured it into the arena wall's electric traps. She didn't roar. She didn't even gloat. She just dragged a claw from the final beast, dipped it in blood, and carved something into the arena floor. 1 line. Then 2. Then 3. Then 1 again. A pattern. She was counting. Overseer Kraltak watched the replay with a tight jaw. What does it mean? The text scrambled. She's logging something. Her kills, maybe? No, the Overseer muttered. It's not for us. It's for her. He turned to his security chief. Bring in the mind reader. The interrogation room. Sarah sat, arms folded, calm. The empath slithered in. A Sarathi, telepathic species, born with the ability to scrape thoughts like moss from stone. It hovered. You resist? She looked up. No. The empath pulsed green. You hide pain well. She didn't answer. You plan to kill more? Still silence. You enjoy it. At that, she spoke. I learn from it. The Sarathi recoiled. Her mind is like iron wrapped in bone. It is not quiet. It is aimed. Kraltak's scales shifted uncomfortably. At what? The empath turned all its eyes on him. You. Day 10. Rumors spread. The guards now escorted her with riot shields. Some refused to be near her at all. They said she whispered in her sleep. That her blood smelled wrong. That she could hear you thinking. The audience didn't cheer anymore. They watched. Afraid. The arena feeds were flooded with messages. Where did they find her? She's not like the others. She's not fighting to escape, she's fighting to understand. In the control room, Kraltak watched a new transmission from a lower-tier arena on Zarnus V. A human child, another prisoner, looked at a screen showing Sarah's fight. She's coming for us, the girl whispered. The gates opened slower than usual. Dust hung in the air like fog. The arena was silent, no cheers, no chants, no music. Spectators sat still, staring through reinforced glass. Even the vendors had stopped walking the aisles. They were waiting. Sarah stepped into the arena for what they called the final showcase. She didn't look up. She didn't need to. She already knew where the cameras were. Where the sound bounced. Where the blood pooled first. She had mapped it all. This time, there was no match roster. Just one name, Overseer Kraltak Threx. And a message burned into the arena sand with a laser torch before the fight began. She dies or the myth wins. 3 hours earlier, the guards had dragged her from her cell without saying a word. No usual threats, no scanning, no armor check. Just silence. And fear. The kind that stank through even the sterilized halls of the arena. She was brought not to the prep chambers but to the broadcast command deck. The overseer stood there, flanked by enforcer-class guards, fully armored, pulse blade ready, faces hidden. He didn't look amused. "You've turned my arena into a shrine," he said. "The people cheer you. Worship you. They think you're invincible." Sarah blinked once. "I'm going to kill that belief," he continued. "And I'm going to do it on every screen in the galaxy. You'll die live, and your myth dies with you." Sarah tilted her head slightly. "If that were true, you have killed me in the dark." He stepped closer, voice low. "I want them to watch." Now, in the center of the sand, Kraltak stood above her on a raised platform, clad in ceremonial armor, etched obsidian, gilded with the bones of extinct creatures. His personal blade, a serrated relic forged before the Trade Coalition, rested in his hand. Sarah, by contrast, held nothing. Her fists were blood-stained and bare. Her only armor was the cold. The klaxon sounded. He didn't charge. He expected her to flinch. She didn't. Instead, she spoke, voice calm, even. "They're watching." His eyes narrowed. "That's the point." She nodded toward the cameras. "No. They are watching. Not your audience. The others." "What others?" "The ones you keep caged." She raised her voice. "You want a myth? Let me give you one." Then she moved. It wasn't a rush. It wasn't even a sprint. She walked. Slow, measured, footsteps soundless on the blood-dried sand. The guards around the edge shifted nervously. They weren't part of the match, but no one told them that didn't matter anymore. Kraltak descended from the platform. His blade ignited, glowing with an unstable energy. He lunged, a wide, sweeping arc, meant to sever at the waist. Sarah dropped. Not backwards, through the motion. She rolled beneath it, caught the trailing end of his armor, and yanked. He stumbled. That's when she kicked, once, into the side of his knee. The crowd gasped. Not at the strike. At the sound. The crack. In the control tower, a junior technician turned from the chaos. "Sir, something's happening on the prisoner decks." The acting supervisor frowned. "What kind of something?" "Broadcasts. Internal." Her voice, playing through the walls. "Her what?" 1 hour ago. Sarah had carved glyphs into the arena walls for days. No one had paid attention. They assumed ritual. Madness. A coping mechanism. They didn't know the symbols were codes. She'd mapped blind spots. Mic timing. Power relay schedules. She learned to sync them. With a stolen comm bead she'd salvaged from a dead guard's boot weeks ago, hidden in her ragged waistband, she linked the broadcast system to prisoner comms. When the arena's final match began, every cell lit up with one sound. Rise. Back in the arena, Kraltak swung again. Furious. Desperate. He screamed something guttural in his native tongue, likely a curse. Sarah ducked under the blade and struck his ribs. Once. Twice. The third time, he fell. She stood over him. "You called it an exhibition." Blood foamed at his mouth. "You think this makes you free?" "I'm not here for me." In the viewing box, a scream rose. A guard was thrown through the glass. Prisoners poured in, humans, aliens, hybrids, all freed from their cells. Not with weapons. Not with armor. With intent. The people didn't run. They watched. Some began cheering. Not for the rebellion. For her. Kraltak crawled, dragging his blade. Sarah kicked it away and grabbed him by the collar. "You built a machine," she said, "and called it justice. Why you can't win?" Sarah looked around. The arena walls flashed red. The guards were fleeing. The myth wasn't dying. It was spreading. She pressed his head against the floor. "You never understood humans." Then she left him there, alive. Beaten. Irrelevant. Hours later, the arena was quiet again. The survivors gathered in the center. Sarah stood among them, clothes torn, blood on her neck, face calm. She turned to the cameras. "This isn't a prison anymore," she said. "It's a warning." She looked up. "Earth remembers." Then she walked away, leaving behind a ruin. The girl stepped into the dark halls beneath the Colosseum's wreckage. Her voice, the first command anyone had heard her give, echoed behind her like prophecy. "Let's go find the others."